Recording. Alright, cool. So this chapter is only 9 pages.
Uh,
Alright, we'll finish it off then today only. So this is the final chapter I think you have, which is independence and partition of India. Alright. So shall we start?
hmm.
So the plan for independence was set immediately after the end of World War II, right? So at the time, Britain and its allies, U.S., China, France, um, and the Soviet Union all together had managed to defeat Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan. So after the end of World War, the Europe was completely, devastated. The continent was devastated, and all countries, looked forward to rebuilding their economies. And the British Empire, which at the start of the 20th century, it was a major global power. By the end of, the two world wars, it had become a depleted force. Furthermore, there were two new global supers which were arising, the USSR and the USA, and there was a new Cold War brewing. So at this time, Britain had no longer had the resources nor the capability to, hold on to its empire abroad, because it had to focus on rebuilding its own economy.
Achha.
Yeah. So the British always pointed with pride to the political unity of India that they had brought about. Unfortunately, they undid this unity towards the end of their rule. The imprisonment of Congress leaders in 1942 left the political field free for Jinnah, who was now very popular in the ruling class. So, there is a common thing that most the British, they say, because the British ruled India, that's how the idea of India came about. Alright, because before that they say India was just different kingdoms and all, and we were the ones who brought around the political unity of India. What happened, however, is towards the end of their rule, towards the last 10 years of the rule, they completely undid whatever unity they brought forward. Because in 1942, just around the Quit India movement, they imprisoned many Congress leaders. This, left the political field free for Jinnah, because Jinnah was not arrested this time, because he always used to collaborate with the British, looking for concessions. So by arresting the Congress leaders, now the country had no leadership, and Jinnah conveniently, used this opportunity to the West effect. The demand from Pakistan, that is the partition of India. Sir Muhammad Iqbal, at the Allahabad session of the Muslim League in 1930, conceived a plan of a Muslim state. Such a state would embrace all the provinces where the Muslim faith was strong. A group of young men at Cambridge, led by Rahmat Ali, systematically propagated this scheme. In 1933, a 4-page leaflet was distributed by them. They confessed that their scheme of Pakistan was different from that of Iqbal. Sir Iqbal wanted the merger of these provinces into a single state within the Indian Federation. He was not thinking in terms of the partition of India. The Cambridge boys, on the other hand, however, proposed that these provinces should have their own separate federation. Rahmat Ali had even found a name for this separate state. He called it Pakistan, a word composed of the initial letters of Punjab, Afghan province, Kashmir, Sindh, and the last is a syllable of Baluchistan. So P is for Punjab, A is for Afghanistan, K for Kashmir, Sindh is actually the S. I is in Indus, which is Sindh basically, and the last syllable Stan is from Baluchistan. All right. Any doubts in this?
No.
All right. Shall I continue?
Uh,
At the Lahore session in 1940, the Muslim League passed a resolution that in the areas in which the Muslims are numerically in majority, they should be grouped to constitute an independent state. Jinnah's two nation theory. So this was his called his two nation theory. Jinnah, in his presidential address at the Lahore session, declared that Islam and Hinduism were not were not religions in the strict sense of the term. Instead, they were two distinct nationalities. Jinnah said, the Hindus and Muslims derive their inspirations from different sources of history. They have different epics, different heroes, and different episodes. If you yoke two such nations together, the project is doomed to failure from the start. The government gave all encouragement to the Muslim League. Gandhi, Abul Kalam Azad, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, and other nationalist leaders did not accept the League's thesis. Gandhi remarked, Hindus and Muslims of India are not two nations. Those whom God has made one, man will never be able to divide. So Jinnah's theory was that, a similar theory which is propagated by right wingers in India right now. So, you know, they didn't look at Islam and
No,
Hinduism as
what the right winger?
right wingers in India currently, follow this theory as well. So they don't see Hinduism and Islam
Acha.
as, just mere religions. They see them as separate nationalities because of the separate culture, separate traditions, separate history, etc. And Jinnah believed, along with, if you see that, a lot of right wing theorists have, agree with Jinnah's theory and all that. They both, are fundamentally opposed to each other, but they both agree with some similar theories. So both of them believe that if, two nations are brought, if, try to force two nations to come together, the project is doomed. And British government at the time, because they wanted, to create separatism in the nationalist movement, they gave all their encouragement to the Muslim League. So some members in the Congress, other nationalists in the Congress like Gandhi, Abul Kalam Azad, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. So out of the three names, two you can clearly see that two are Muslims. So this, many Muslims also went against Jinnah's theory, and they did not believe that, they did not accept his thesis. Right. Any doubts?
No.
If you have any doubts, tell me. All right.
Ah.
Oh, okay. So the next one is the cabinet mission. So reason why the cabinet mission was sent to India. Once World War II came to an end with the surrender of Japan in 1945. Shortly before this, the British had its national elections in 1945, in which surprisingly the Labour Party came to power and Clement Attlee became the Prime Minister. He was the successor of Winston Churchill. He at that time the Labour Party was very anti.
Mr. Attlee was a successor.
Yes, Clement Attlee, that's his full name. He succeeded Winston Churchill. So during the war, Winston Churchill from the Conservative Party was the Prime Minister. So in Britain also there are two parties, all right. Like in India there are many, but in Britain two major parties. Of course, other parties are there, but generally the government is formed by two major parties. That is either the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. All right. So 1940 to 1945, Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister. He was from the Conservative Party. In the 1945 elections held in around August, the Conservative Party was, removed from power, and the Labour Party came in. So naturally, if the party loses, then the Prime Minister also resigns. So Winston Churchill had to resign, and the new Labour government was headed by Clement Attlee. All right. Now Clement Attlee was a very anti-imperialist, and he shared his sympathy with India's political aspirations. All right. So one of the major reasons that we
Hmm.
received independence was also the 1945 election in Britain, because many experts say that had Churchill continued, the independence struggle would have had to drag on much more further. So apart from this, what are the other reasons? The first one is the trial of the INA officers, the Delhi trials. So the prosecution of Azad Hind Fauj or INA's officers had created strong anti-British feelings in India. The charge against them was treason or disloyalty to the British crown. Everyone in India believed that the punishment given to them will, in fact, be a punishment for the whole of India. There was a crisis situation which called for speedy resolution. Alright, so you know that the INA lost many wars towards the end of 1944 and 1945, right? Many of them were captured as prisoners of war. So these prisoners of war were brought back to India in Delhi under the Delhi trials. Many INA officers were, prosecuted. So the charge against them was treason or disloyalty to the British crown. So in India, no, they believe like, why, how can you charge us with disloyalty? Who are you to that we have to pledge our loyalty to? They believe Indians in general believed at that time, like if the punishment was given to the INA officers, it was as a whole a punishment was given to the entire of India. And there was a huge crisis that was looming. Any doubts? Athar?
Acha, why Chris was sent to India?
Cripps was sent in 1942. So 1942 was, to try and get Indian support in the war in World War II. That happened in 1942. The cabinet mission is in 1945, which is bringing forward the proposal to make India an independent state. So both of them are different missions.
Uh-huh.
Cripps was in 1942, not
Oh,
for independence. That was for India's support in World War II. This is for India's independence after World War II. Okay.
hmm.
So the second reason is election to the central and provincial legislatures. The new Secretary of State for India, Lord Petrick Lawrence, announced that elections to the central and provincial legislatures in India would be held as soon as possible. And by February 1946, the elections were all over. The Congress formed ministries in 8 out of 11 provinces. The
Voice is breaking.
One second. Now, is it better now?
It's okay now.
Alright. So in there were totally 11 provinces in India at the time. The Congress formed ministries. That is, they came into power in 8 of these 11 provinces, and the Muslim League formed governments in Bengal and in Sindh. In Punjab, a coalition government was formed under Khizr Hayat Khan. In fact, the elections established the Muslim League as the only mouthpiece of Muslims. So at that time, there was the concept of reserved constituencies, where the Muslim in all the areas where Muslims constituted the majority, only Muslim candidates could stand for election there. Reserved constituencies, and in 90% of the reserved constituencies, Muslim League candidates only won. This is why the Muslim League was established as the only mouthpiece of Muslims in the country, and the League at that time was demanding the partition of India. Third one, the purpose of the cabinet mission. Under these circumstances, the British government, decided to send a mission compromising of 3 members of the British cabinet to India. Accordingly, Lord Petrick Lawrence, Sir Stanford Cripps, and Mr. Alexander arrived in New Delhi on the 24th of March 1946. Their purpose was to bring about a settlement between the League and the Congress for a speedy transfer of power from the British to Indian hands. Alright, so the 3 things that happened were the trial of the INA officers, the elections of 1946, and the third, why did the cabinet mission come? So the cabinet mission was trying to reach a settlement between the Muslim League and the Congress, because the British wanted to get out of India as fast as possible. Now, earlier they wanted to stay, but now they didn't have the resources to stay. So every day that it dragged on, the British were losing their resources in India. So now they were trying to get out as soon as possible. So the cabinet mission was sent, alright, and 3 members. It was the Secretary of India, Lord Petrick Lawrence, Sir Stanford Cripps. Do you know him? Do you remember that name?
He was sent for that now for the approval of Congress in the conference.
No, not conference. What was he? Where is he relevant? Like, where have we heard that name?
Uh, our Inquest mission,
Exactly.
1942.
Yes, exactly. So the same Stafford Cripps is now also part of the cabinet mission. All right. So any doubts in these 3 things? Reason why the cabinet mission was sent to India?
What?
Any doubts regarding the previous topic?
No, no,
All right.
no, no.
Alright, the next part is the rejection for the demand for Pakistan. The Muslims League demand for Pakistan was rejected by the cabinet missions because of many reasons. First one, it would not provide an acceptable solution to the communal problem. The size of the non-Muslim minorities in Pakistan would also be very considerable. The commission saw no justification for including within Pakistan those areas of Punjab, Bengal, and Assam in which the population was predominantly non-Muslim. So, at the time, Pakistan wanted all of Punjab, all of Bengal, and they also wanted Assam. So, at the time, Assam was one unified state. So, the entire of Northeast was comprised of Assam. And, the commission saw no justification, because, the majority of the population there was non-Muslim, and even inside inside of Pakistan, the number of non-Muslim minorities would be very high. It's not like the number of non-Muslims would be very low or something. It was very considerable. Secondly, the 2 halves of the proposed Pakistan state, West Punjab and East Bengal, would be separated by 700s of miles. Communications between them would depend on the goodwill of India. So I'm not sure if you know about this, but what is today Pakistan and Bangladesh before 1971 was known as East and West Pakistan. So they were one unified state. So just like the partition of Punjab and
I know
Bengal happened.
this.
Yeah, you do? Great. So both so
Hmm.
the problem is communicating, because the distance between the West Pakistan and East Pakistan was huge, and any communication that had it would have to go through India. So only if this new Pakistan state had good relations with India would this happen. And naturally, if it wanted to be partition, then the Indians would obviously harbor bad sentiments, no? So that was another reason. Third one, the armed forces in the postal and telegraph system had been built up for India as a whole. So under the British administration, they set up their own armed forces, the postal and the telegraph system. And this was, designed for the whole of unified India. Now, because of partition, the army would be split, the telegraph system, postal graph system would have to be split and rebuilt. So disintegrating them would gravely injure both India and, Pakistan. Fifthly, a final problem. Now this was only regarding provinces. They were still, 543 princely states at India at that point, unified India. So now, if the partition took place, the position of princely states would become even more complex, because these states are not like one unified clump in one corner. They were, small states which were scarcely divided and scattered all across the country. So a partition would now, make it even more difficult to address that problem. Any doubts? Shall I continue, or any doubts in the previous?
Continue.
Alright. So, formation of the interim government. The Viceroy resumed negotiations with Nehru and Jinnah for the formation of an interim government. The Congress was in a commanding position in the Constituent Assembly. This made Jinnah nervous and shaky, and the Muslim League refused to join the interim government. This time, the Viceroy did not let Jinnah veto his proposals. On the 14th of August 1946, the Viceroy invited Jawaharlal Nehru to form the government. The new government, with Nehru as the so-called premier, assumed office on the 2nd of September 1946. In fact, Nehru was not designated as the premier or prime minister of India. His official designation was vice president of the interim government. So he was not prime minister in 1946. At that time, it was, he was the vice president of the interim government. The Viceroy made it clear that he would welcome the cooperation of the League if they should change their mind. He announced that the League could propose 5 names in a government of 14, out of which 6 will be nominees of the Congress, including a representative of scheduled caste, and 3 will be representatives of various other minorities. So the Viceroy, he was fed up of, the Muslim League trying to create trouble, and the reason why Muslim League was creating problem is because they realized that the Congress had a very strong position in the Constituent Assembly. So they didn't want to join the interim government, rather they wanted to create problems from the outside. And the Viceroy was fed up of, the shenanigans by the Muslim League, and he did not let Jinnah veto his proposals, and he invited Nehru to form the government. However, he also gave the offer to the Muslim League that if you ever change your mind, you can come and join the government and we will welcome it. He said that, you can give us 5 names out of a government of 14. So 5 cabinet members in out of 14. 6 will be from the Congress, which includes 1 from the scheduled caste, and 3 will be of various other minorities. So what happens next is direct action by the Muslim League. Any doubts in the previous topic? Hello?
Hello?
Any doubts in the previous topic?
No.
Alright. Direct action by the Muslim League. So the League's resolution regarding direct action. Although the Muslim League had earlier accepted the cabinet mission scheme, there were many things at this time that it did not like. The Congress had an overwhelming majority in the Constituent Assembly. The League...
Wait a minute, Nathan.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me.
And you have teach me till where?
This part.
Formation of interim.
We finished that. We are now doing direct action.
I have one page also there. Formation of the Constituent Assembly, reaction of 6 and scheduled caste.
Which page is that? Is that towards the end or somewhere in between?
Before that, interim government.
Wait 1 second, let me check it out. 203. Oh yeah, 2 pages are missing. That's alright. Send it to me now. We'll do that first.
Wait.
Yeah. We sent it.
हाँ.
All right. One second. Let me check. Cool. All right. So then. Cabinet Vision Plan. So, unable to bring around an agreement between the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League, the Cabinet Mission put forward the following proposals. First one, a federal union. There was to be a federal union between both British India and the princely states. The central government was to have three subjects under its jurisdiction: defense, foreign affairs, and communications. Of course, it would also have power to raise the finances required for these subjects. 2. The subjects were to be retained by the provinces and princely states. All subjects other than the central subjects, that is defense, foreign affairs, communication, and also you know finances, would be controlled by the provinces. Thus, the proposals accepted the principle of provincial autonomy. So, this is a very similar system to what we have in the US, which is a very federal structure. All right, the current structure in India is not as federal as the one proposed here. The princely states would retain all subjects and all powers others than those it ceded to the union. So the princely states could act under this union, and they could, have any power they wanted except those that they were willing to hand over to the Indian state. Third, the provinces would be divided into three groups. So the provinces would be free to form groups, and each group would be a regional union. Group A was to include Madras, Bombay, UP, Bihar, Central Provinces, and Odisha. Group B comprised of Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, Sindh, and Group C included Assam and Bengal. So one consisted entirely of the mainland of India. The other was Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, and Sindh, which is consisted of Punjab, that is and Haryana, which is in India, and the rest of Pakistan, and also all the countries and all the states in the east, Assam and Bengal. That is Group C. The next one, fourth one, a constitution making body. A constituent assembly would frame the union constitution. It was to consist of 385 members. The provinces would elect 292, whereas the princely states were allowed 93 members. Members of the provinces would be elected by the provincial legislative assemblies. They would fall into three categories: 210 Hindus, 78 Muslims, and 4 Sikhs. After a preliminary meeting, the Constituent Assembly was to split into three sections. Members of all the three groups would frame provincial constitutions for provinces included in each group. They would also decide whether any regional constitution should be set up for the provinces. Finally, the Constituent Assembly would meet again jointly and frame the constitution.
Constitution.
Thus, the cabinet mission proposed a federal union with three subjects: the provinces, the regional groups, and provinces, and a union center. All right. So this seems very confusing, but it's actually quite simple. All right. Where did that go? Right over here. So the cabinet gave, first one is they proposed a federal union wherein the princely states and provinces would join together in a federation. Under this, the subjects, only the central government, the union government, would only have defense, foreign affairs, communications, and finances. Remaining all other subjects would be retained by the provinces. So the provincial governments or state governments at the would control the other subjects, and for princely states they could have control on any number of subjects they wanted. If they did not wish to enforce or take care of a subject, they could cede it to the central government. That is, they could hand it over and say, the central government can take care of this subject for us. Third point, the provinces would be divided in three groups. All right, so you can name them, keep it in your mind. So group A consists of South India and North India, which included Madras, Bombay, UP, Bihar, Central Province, which is around Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and all that, and Odisha. Six provinces. Group B consisted of Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, and Sindh. That is, towards the west, which includes parts of Haryana, Punjab, which is modern day India, and also the rest of West Pakistan. And Group C included Assam and Bengal to the east. All right.
Hmm.
Fourth one is the constitution making body. So a constituent assembly to form a constitution would be set up. This would be set up for a union constitution. This body would consist of 385 members, out of which 292 members were elected by the provinces and 93 were elected by princely states. And members of the provinces would be elected by provincial legislative assemblies. So the respective legislative assemblies in each province would elect the members to represent these provinces in the assembly. All right, and they would fall into three categories: 210 Hindus, 78 Muslims, 278, and 4 Sikhs, 282. Sorry, 292. So this was regarding the provinces. Any doubt here? You want me to explain again?
No.
You got it? And after a preliminary,
Can you teach till treaty between the Constituent Assembly and the United Kingdom? After that, I'm very sleepy. I
where till
can't focus.
alright, we'll finish this whatever we're doing now, and once it ends, we can finish it later. Alright,
Finish till treaty.
which the next page you mean? Yeah, we have only 10 minutes left, so anyway, we'll
हाँ
finish. After a preliminary meeting, the Constituent Assembly was split into three sections. Members of all three groups would frame provincial constitutions for the province included in each group. So, as per the three groups that were divided, Group A, Group B, Group C, they would, decide individual constitutions for those groups, and they could also decide whether any regional constitution should be set up for individual provinces. Alright, so they were setting up three constitutions, one for each of the groups, and if they wanted, they could also set up individual constitutions for individual provinces. Like for example, in Group A, or sorry, Group C, Assam and Bengal would have one constitution. Alright, as one group. If members of the Constituent Assembly wanted, they could also set up individual constitutions for Assam and Bengal. Finally, the Constituent Assembly would again meet jointly and frame the Union Constitution. So the first task was to do for the provinces and the groups. Finally, they will do for the Union. Thus, the Cabinet Mission proposed a federal union with three groups: the provinces, the regional groups of provinces, and the Union Center. All right. Any doubts here?
No.
All right. Fifth one, an interim government. The cabinet mission also recommended the formation of an interim government at the center. Interim government is like a temporary government, so it happens generally without elections and all. They are just very popular leaders and all are elected. All right, and for the time being, the viceroy would reconstitute his executive council consisting of representatives of all committee. So earlier, the executive council was only consisted mostly of Britishers. Now the viceroy for the time being would, change this to include people from all communities. Sixth point, India would decide whether she would remain within the British Commonwealth. So India could also, they gave the option to, remain within the British Commonwealth or secede from it. So the British Commonwealth is basically nothing but a group of states which were former territories of the British Empire, and the head of state of these territories is the Queen of England. So the option was given to India whether you want to remain within the Union of Commonwealth or you want to be free from it. And the final point, treaty between the Constituent Assembly and the United Kingdom. And it was also necessary to work out a treaty between the Constituent Assembly and the United Kingdom for matters arising out of the transfer of power. So this was done, to transfer over control from the British Empire towards the interim government in India. All right. Any doubts? These 7 points.
No.
Alright. So do you want to stop or do you want to finish this page?
We can do that tomorrow or in the evening.
Alright, cool.
I'm very sleepy. I'm very tired.
Hey, no worries.